Hey there, glad you could join us. In this chapter of Film Study Concepts, we're looking at the art of editing. We learned about the shot in previous chapters. Today, let's look at something a little more ambitious. A scene is made up of multiple shots unified by time, space, or action. This part of The Glorious Future, for example, can be considered a scene made up of multiple shots that takes place on a pier at night. If we think of shots as bricks in cinema, scenes are like the walls they construct. A sequence, on the other hand, is usually made up of multiple scenes unified by a narrative beat. Unlike scenes, a sequence does not need to be at the same place or same time. Sometimes a sequence can also be made up of a single shot or a single scene. As long as the collection of shots belongs in a single narrative segment, it can be considered a sequence. Now that you know all about scenes and sequences, we can properly look at editing. Editing refers to the process of selecting, cutting, and recombining footage during film creation. For the purpose of this class, we'll be looking at editing as the ways in which shots are linked to each other in order to create continuity and meaning. Transitions are the visual effects used to bridge one shot to the next. The most basic of which is the cut, where the transition contains no effect at all.
我女儿请同学们玩，又不叫你请客，你有什么受不了的？
谁跟你开玩笑来着？你们家这样吵，我是邻居，有权告你。
This is the most common shot transition by a mile, and most likely you've seen the cut thousands of times. The next few transitions I'll list are a lot more rare, and are usually used to connect scene to scene or sequence to sequence. So keep that in mind while we fly through them real quick. We have the wipe, the fade, the dissolve, and the iris. The importance of editing in film can be demonstrated through the Kuleshov Experiment. This experiment was conducted by Soviet filmmaker Lev Kuleshov in the early 1900s, and it went something like this. An audience is shown a series of sequential shots of a man's face, alongside unrelated images such as a bowl of soup and a beautiful woman. When asked, the audience stated that the expression and emotion of the man changed depending on the preceding shot. This experiment showed that meaning can be constructed from the relation between sequential shots, a phenomenon we call the Kuleshov effect. Much of the meaning we derive from cinema is contextual, and context is built via editing. Continuity editing, also known as Hollywood-style editing or invisible editing, is a set of techniques commonly used in American narrative films to mask transitions. Although, truth be told, you can see them used in most films, anywhere. When employing these techniques, the jarring nature of cuts are minimized, and films can feel incredibly smooth and immersive. The first of these is a technique called match on action, and it is when an action from shot 1 is continued into shot 2. Eyeline matching is of a similar concept. This technique entails that shot 2 follows the eyeline or gaze of a character in shot 1.
我而家一個仙都唔愛佢哋嘅，叫佢哋扯，係都唔肯扯喎，仲要我租個床位俾佢。
唉，大家同屋共住咁耐啦，咪租俾佢咯。
哎呀，你又唔係唔知嘅。
This can be done in the fashion of a POV shot, although it is not always necessary. The last of the continuity edits is a technique called graphic matching. It is when a pair of sequential shots match via compositional elements, such as color, shape, or movement. This is the rarest of all three techniques, but definitely the most visually interesting. When you do see a graphic match, you can sometimes expect it to be coupled with transitional effects, such as dissolve, wipe, or fade. The 180-degree rule is used in character interaction, especially conversations featuring two characters sitting face to face. It states that cameras should only be placed on either side of the characters, but not both. This is done to preserve spatial coherence within the scene.
我是
问什么？
我有一个要求，
大年，你怎么会想到这个？我不会考虑你的问题的。
In practice, this technique will result in you seeing one character talking on screen left and the other on screen right, a phenomenon we call the shot reverse shot. The technique known as crosscutting is where two or more lines of actions are edited together.
同媽媽講再見。媽媽再見。
The events themselves do not need to be bound by space or time. Rather, they're connected via thematic or narrative elements. Montage is the stringing together of often unrelated individual shots in order to form a sequence. We'll be looking at two styles of montage, known as the American style and Soviet style. American montage is used to expand or condense space, time, or action. It is the more common of the two, and is what you'll see in most of the montages you'll encounter. The Soviet montage is a little more complex than its American counterpart. In the early 1900s, Soviet filmmakers theorized that film could be used to evoke revolutionary thoughts within its viewers through editing. Thus, the Soviet montage was born, a series of clashing images that highlighted conflicts, opposition, and antagonism. The collision of these images is theorized to create a revolutionary synthesis in the minds of the viewers, which can translate to political movement. Which, you know, is kind of what the Soviets were all about. Congratulations on making it through another chapter. The ideas covered in this videos are quite dense and can be a little confusing. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me or your instructor. I'll see you in the next chapter. And as always, I hope you have a wonderful day.